What's up, Houston Illini? Welcome to the 3-in-1 show where we interview and feature a variety of University of Illinois alumni who are now living and thriving right here in Houston, Texas. My name is Brian Crawford. I'm a grad of Illinois from 2008, and today our featured guest is a managing director at Ankura. Did I say that right? Sorry,
Yep,
Jason.
Ankura. Yep.
Ankura. All right. And also, he is the Houston Illini Club president. I talk about the Houston Illini Club all the time. This is the guy that runs this show, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience, his life, his career here in Houston. So, what's up, Jason? How are we doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Excited to have you here. Real quickly, so before we get started, reminder on how things work. At the halftime of any Illini sporting event, you may remember that the halftime performance by the Marching Illini is broken down into three distinct parts called the 3-in-1, ending the Illinois alma mater. Our show is also broken down into three parts as well to honor that 3-in-1 show tradition. So we are going to talk about how our guests chose the University of Illinois, what was their experience like when they were there, and what also brought them down to Houston, and maybe a little bit about what their career path looks like today. So no matter how you're watching, please subscribe and follow to make sure you don't miss any of the shows coming up. So without further ado, Jason Cables, welcome to the show. I'm going to go way back here and let's talk about where you're from. You said west suburbs, right?
Yeah, so I moved around a lot growing up with my parents. My dad worked for the government. So I was actually born in Las Vegas and I moved around every 2 to 4 years growing up. After that, right before my freshman year, the summer before my freshman high school year, we moved to Aurora, Illinois, and I attended Waubonsee Valley for 4 years in Aurora.
So
And
what do you consider hometown? Do you go, yeah, I'm from Vegas?
no, I literally was there as a baby, so I don't have any family there. It was just a stopping point for my folks. Most of my family lives in Tucson, Arizona,
Okay.
and then I have another chunk living in Denver area. I've never lived in Denver, so I generally say Tucson.
Where then are like your sports allegiances for things? I'm curious.
So yeah, it's a little controversial. I'm a St. Louis guy. Um, when I lived in Chicago, my dad hated the Cubs. I can't really explain it. He just always hated the Cubs, and it feels like when I lived there, the White Sox weren't very relevant. And so when I was at University of Illinois, and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, my parents moved from Chicago to St. Louis, and they were building a house, and my dad had a corporate apartment right next to Busch Stadium. So I
Mm.
was 21 years old. I was walking down to Busch Stadium, and this was before they were really good. So I could buy tickets for nothing. Pre Mark McGuire and playoffs, they got very good very fast. But it was a great summer because my twin brother and I and my sister spent a lot of time at Busch Stadium. And from there, again, skipping way ahead, my brother ended up moving to St. Louis, and we got Rams season tickets, so I would travel down there. So I'm a St. Louis guy, although now I guess I'm a LA guy because the Rams left, and I suffered through so many bad years. I knew they were going to get good, so I didn't want to turn my team allegiance.
When were you in St. Louis then, like going to Cardinals games and stuff? Was that like the 90s then?
Yeah, it was the summer, probably the summer before Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. It was Ray Langford back then was the big bomber. So yeah,
Yep.
97, 98.
I'm a Cardinals fan, so those
Yeah,
those are names that I'm familiar with.
yeah, we've
Um,
had some good years.
Langford and Gilkey and Jordan and Gant and
Hmm.
Gaetti. That was that crew. That was a crew.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so you're growing up St. Louis, some a little bit Chicago suburbs. Um, how did you go about choosing Illinois? And was there any other ones that were options for you?
Yeah, so I have an identical twin, and my parents are very middle class, so they definitely wanted a public school, a state school. Um, I did apply to University of Arizona. I was raised in Wildcat gear, and I wanted to go there, and I, of course, got in because if you get into Illinois, you're definitely getting into Arizona. No offense, but but my parents were going to make me live with a family member, probably my grandmother. So that was not attractive to me. We toured Southern Illinois. It was beautiful. And I actually got a scholarship at a small Northwestern Missouri college. I think it's called Truman now. It
Mhm.
used to be directional, like Northwest Missouri State or something like that. And I did tour it. And my dad, he didn't pressure me, but he's like, "Hey, I'll buy you a car if you take the scholarship and go here." But on that trip, I just decided I could be a big fish in a small pond, which was the small school, or I could be a small fish in a big pond, which was U of I. U of I had already known I was going into accounting, and obviously it's a top ranked program still to this day,
Yeah.
accounting. So it made the most logical sense to go there.
Um, what were the years when you were in school at Illinois then?
Yeah, I graduated high school in 96, so the fall of 96, and then I graduated May of 2000.
Okay.
And my class was the last 4-year accounting class until it went to a 5-year program for the CPA exam.
Ooh,
So my sister, who's a year behind me in school and also an accountant, she got hit with the 5-year plan, but I got through it before.
an extra year of tuition.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So now we're down on campus
Mhm.
at Illinois. Talk to me about what kind of stuff were you getting into?
So my high school career, I played football and I tried out for baseball, but it was too competitive for my skill level. So I got a job pretty early. I worked at Best Buy all through high school, and then I transferred to Champaign, and I worked all 4 years running. Well, by the end, I was running customer service in Champaign. So I worked 20, 25 hours a week. So I didn't join many clubs or anything like that. I worked, went to class, and of course had a good time with my friends. We played some intramural sports on campus, some softball, and some stuff like that. But and especially I do a lot of recruiting. And I look at these kids' resumes now, and they are jam packed with all this extracurricular. Me, I was earning a living and going to school and having fun. So that's pretty much what we were doing.
You had a good combo there.
Yeah.
Uh, well, looking back at Illinois, what's some things that stick out to you as far as this was a really uh, special experience for me?
Well, it starts with our dorm. I was in the six pack freshman year in Scott Hall, first floor, which
Nice.
was the breezeway floor. So you basically had two floors on the first floor, and I met my best friends in that dorm. Um, like I said, I had an identical twin, and we were roommates all through college. And he and I just completely lucked out to meet a bunch of great guys on the dorm floor that we really got along with and still keep up with to this day. So that's always a fond memory for me. Um, I love the quad. I actually this past year took my son down there for a football game and a college tour. Um, and more than anything, I just wanted to see the campus because it had been some time since I had been on campus, and it was just as beautiful as I remembered. The quad is largely unchanged. Obviously, Green Street and other parts of campus have exploded, but I remember between classes oftentimes I didn't want to go all the way back to the dorm when you only had a 1 or 2 hour break. So just sitting out on the steps of Follinger or one of the other buildings on a beautiful day brings back a lot of fond memories.
Those days, and it's about this time of year, right? When the weather starts to turn,
Yeah.
and even though it's like, 40, 50 degrees outside, everybody's trying to wear shorts and throw a baseball or football around on the quad and stuff. Those were the best days.
Yeah. And I mean, nowadays, especially in Houston, if it's 40 or 50, you see people wearing, their fur coats and whatever. And we were out there in shorts and a t shirt and soaking up the rays. Yeah. Those were the days.
You mentioned Scott Hall and the six pack. I was looking for I went to or I lived in Forbes Hall my
Hmm.
freshman year, which is where like similar experience, a lot of where my base group of friends from college comes from. And I have a brick from when they tore down Forbes Hall down here in my
Oh,
bookshelf.
that's awesome.
It's really cool. Okay. Di- sorry, off track. Let's look at some other memories from college. Like, did you know all the way through accounting was where you were going to go?
Yeah, so I guess it was, I don't remember if it was junior or senior year of high school. I signed up for an accounting class, and the teacher was just outstanding. Her name was Miss Perez. Shout out if you're still around. I'm sure she's long retired. And looking back at it, being an accountant now, I realize it was mainly a bookkeeping class, doing some basic ledgers and things like that.
Yeah.
She made it fun and interesting. And so I went to, obviously University of Illinois, and a lot of my friends transferred majors. I just always knew this was what I was going to pursue. My father was business administration. And while he didn't say I had to do accounting or lean on it, he thought it was a great opportunity. And it's proven to be. As I mentioned, I worked at Best Buy the whole time through college. And by the time I graduated, of course, I had a lot of opportunities to do your traditional tax or audit roles. But even at Best Buy, they would have taken me as a store manager because I had a lot of accounting, inventory knowledge. I could have gone to Minneapolis, St. Paul and been in their corporate office. I just had a lot of different options. And so I always viewed that as a very positive of that major. You don't actually have to go into accounting. It's just a very trusted profession and a lot of opportunities.
What were you even selling at Best Buy back then? Record players and who was their computers yet?
There were big boxy computers, and there were
TVs.
Yeah, records. They didn't have records, but they definitely had cassette tapes when I started, and then CDs took over the world. And the computers were big boxes, and you would get a package with a printer and a printer cable. Oh, and then we got cell phones, but they were the big, either the bag phones or the big bricks, and we would literally have to program them so that they would work. And you get your 30-minute monthly plan for $109 or whatever. Yeah,
My college roommate had one of those giant brick Nokia phones. He literally chucked it down the stairs in the dorm, just perfectly fine when it was all said
they
and
were
done.
tough phones.
I know. Okay, favorite restaurant in Champaign was?
So this is a personal. It's a chain, but my twin brother worked at Outback, and part of my love of Outback is just my fond memories there because the proprietor basically treated me as an employee. I got employee discounts, and Best Buy was right next door, across the street on Prospect. And so I spent so much time there after this restaurant had closed, drinking beer with friends. So I know that that's not a great answer from a food perspective, but I really enjoyed my time at the Outback. I loved Gumby's and Pokey Sticks, and the late night La Bamba burrito as big as your head. I think there was one called like La Paloma that was I was at Skylight Court, which was 5th and Green.
Yeah.
And now it's all different, but I think it was called La Paloma. That was also a really good burrito, and it was right downstairs. So yeah, those are probably the ones I remember the most.
I was trying to think of like what era when you were there. What was going on in sports at Illinois then?
Yeah, well, I remember my freshman year going to see Illinois football because I wanted to see what a number one team looked like, and that number one team was Penn State, and they whipped our butt. We had Robert Holcomb as a running back, and we used to say Holcomb left, Holcomb right, Holcomb middle, punt. That was our offense.
Yeah.
And he was an incredible running back, but there just wasn't a lot there. 2001, the year after I graduated, we went to the Sugar Bowl. But yeah, basketball was okay. I don't remember it being outstanding. But again, this is a long time ago, and I'm getting old. So
Well, that was the Lon Kruger years from right. Am I thinking about that?
I think so. Yeah, it was Lon Kruger. Mm-hmm.
And Robert Holcomb, he got drafted by the Rams. You're a Rams fan.
Yeah. I want to say he probably didn't play much. I think those were the Falk years, maybe the Falk year, Marshall years. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but
all right,
yes,
we're way off track. Okay, so you're finishing up college. You got your accounting degree. What are you doing next? What kind of opportunities came across your path here?
So I interviewed So I interviewed basically any interview I could take, and luckily Illinois being such a top quality accounting school, all the accounting firms come down there. Private industry looking for accountants came down, and so I interviewed all over the place. And the traditional, big four, big six back then was tax or audit. And then I took an extra interview, and it was with my current employer, and it just sounded different. And basically, what we do is we're forensic accountants that measure damages for companies, and they're usually damages that result from a catastrophic event like a hurricane or a flood, winter freeze. And we go in and we measure the damages and help their insurance company get behind it and pay it. And if anyone's had an insurance experience, you know that that's not easy. And so we are working with our expertise of insurance and model building and accounting documentation to put it in a clean package that then can get reviewed and audited and paid. And that just sounded so different than every other interview I'd had. Every client is different, both industry and their loss scenario. Sometimes they're out for 6 months. Sometimes they're out for 5 days and they set up temporary operations and they have extra expenses. So in terms of accounting, I just thought it sounded so interesting. And I like kind of the good guy rule, helping to get the insurance company on board with paying this claim. We know that that's not always in any insurance line. That's not always the easiest thing. So I felt really good about that. And in any event, I literally took that opportunity and I've never looked back.
So for me, like as an outsider perspective, I'm looking at it, and then I'm in my head, I hear accounting, and I'm like, okay, numbers, 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 numbers. Keep track of our numbers. Just give them back to us when you're done with it, type of thing. Versus in what you're doing, it's hey, we need help,
Mhm.
and you have a level of expertise in this very specific niche of accounting. Um, and I guess what you said, like there's a level of fiduciary help that's provided by your company for in people in a great need.
Right. And the nice thing is, like, they know their business, right? I'm not going to come in and act like I know their business, but they don't know how to measure and support all the damages that are being incurred. And that's where I come in. So they're describing what's going on. And I'm thinking of how do we support those costs and those dollars and get them paid, and under what portion of the policy. And so that's right. In fact, most policies for big companies, they actually pay my fees, even though it may appear I'm adverse. I'm not adverse to the insurance company, but yeah, I'm trying to maximize the claim value and get it paid in the shortest amount of time. And in a sense, that's not what insurance companies are about. They, not to talk badly about them, but they're not incentivized to overpay a claim or,
Well, you have the microphone right now. You can say whatever you want. So
yeah, yeah. So in terms of accounting, like I said, it was just fascinating to me. And I still work for the exact same team that hired me in 2000.
well, you've stuck with it. So is there along this path, um, 20 years later, what has changed?
The technology. So when I first started my career, I would literally be out in the field getting these accounting records. And if we're talking about like property damage expenses, I'm copying invoices, I'm bringing them back, we're tallying them, organizing them, and then I'm creating exhibit booklets to send off to the insurance company. Now everything's electronic, right? I get downloads from SAP. I get the related invoices. I hyperlink them. I clean it up, and so what used to take a tremendous amount of time, and particularly lower level time, newer employees doing these tasks. Now that's all automated, and we're, in fact, my new hires do so much more in-depth analysis faster than I did. I mean, it was probably 5 years until I was managing this process, and then it was 5 more years before I was directing the analysis. And these guys, they're doing the business interruption and complex portions right out of college because all that paperwork is gone. So
Do you, well, the number of files that you were able to handle at a time versus now, it has to be drastically different based on that level of workload.
That's right. It's exponential, right? I mean, now I can handle 10 or 15 engagements. I'm not on site at one for a week or
Yeah.
2 weeks or 5 weeks. I'm, on site for a day or two for meetings. I go back and we do our work. So that's right.
Was there any specific events that, like, you talked about catastrophic events? Was there anything that sticks out to you as like this was kind of a defining moment in my career? Is why I do what I do?
Um, yes, there's a couple different answers to that. The first one is for those longtime Houstonians, Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, June 27th, 2001, flooded all of Houston, but in particular the hospitals, the medical center, St. Joseph Hospital, which used to be owned by Christus Health, a current client of mine. And I was down here Monday through Friday helping them not only with their insurance claim, but with their FEMA claim because it was such a catastrophic event. A lot of companies simply didn't have enough insurance. And so that was a very positive experience for me, to be helping those companies. But while I was down here 5 days a week for a year and a half, I met what would be my wife. And at the time, if I'd have met her in Chicago, I'd only been home on the weekends. I'd been doing things like laundry and paying bills and hopefully seeing my friends and competing with her. But as it was, I saw her 5 days a week, and I had plenty of time to do those things on the weekend. So that was a really important one that I worked on for my career, personal career, and my professional career. Um, and I guess working on the 9/11 claims was obviously a sad one, but an important one. And I worked on the Nashville floods. That was devastating. That was 2011. So unfortunately, I'm generally coming in after something traumatic. But we're there to get them through it as quickly as possible, hopefully get their finances back in order with insurance payments, and hopefully they can recover and get on their way.
So your wife is from Houston. Is that why you ended up back here?
Yeah. Yes. So her first 12 years was like New Jersey. And then she had spent about 12 or 13 years down here in Houston.
Okay.
So she moved up to Chicago and gave me, I guess, 7 or 8 winters. And the opportunity to move to Dallas came about. And in that time, my family had all left Illinois. So I had friends there, but honestly, we were having kids. And even though we were only 30 minutes apart, we didn't see that much of each other. So we moved to Dallas. And then ultimately, about 7 or 8 years after I moved to Dallas, I got the opportunity to run our practice here in Houston. And so it absolutely came full circle. She's got family here as well. So we're closer to family now than we have been in the remainder of our marriage. So that's been great. So yeah, it was a combination of opportunity and desire to get closer to family.
Did you have the same involvement at all these other locations with as far as like an alumni group when you were in Dallas?
No, I
No?
didn't. My kids were younger now. My son's 18 and my daughter's going to be 16 soon. But when I was in Dallas, well, first of all, I lived in Allen, which is about a 26-mile drive to Dallas, and a lot of the events were in Dallas. But I was kind of in the thick of it, and honestly, I wish I had done more because I've really enjoyed the Houston Illini Club, and I know that they have a great chapter. I did a few things, like Lovey Smith came to talk to the chapter while I was there, and I certainly went to that. I went to a couple of game watches, but it was either weekends, so we were at the ball fields, or it was a Tuesday or whatever night they were playing, and I just wanted to get home. So I was not as active as I could have been.
You got here in what, 2019? Is that what you?
2019, yeah.
Okay. And tell me about, like, you knew obviously a little bit about Houston. You'd spent some time here. I guess it's not like someone else's normal experience where it's like they don't know anything about Houston. You're not coming in cold turkey. why did you choose to get back involved at that point with the Illini Club? And since 2019, having set up a good strong base here again, like talk to me about like your experiences as far as living here again.
Yeah, so it is a different experience. Every time I had been here previously, I was on an expense account in a hotel.
Yeah.
Great for eating out at restaurants and trying different things. Um, Different experience when you live here. But so I had plenty of contacts here in terms of understanding where I needed to live,
Hmm.
where I wanted to live, what had good schools for my children, things like that. So that was all relatively easy. In terms of getting involved in the club, it was much closer. Again, when I was in Allen, I was removed from a lot of the events, and we'll talk about this a little more. But I suspect some of our like Kingwood and Katy friends might feel that same way. And there really was never anything up there, so everything was a drive. And here I come down, and Jake's is 10 or 15 minutes down the road. I also wanted to expand my network. I mean, even though I had done work, I knew my clients. I didn't know other people. I only knew the people that I was working with. And so, I got involved. I got actually roped in pretty easily. Doug, the former president who left because he was moving back to Champaign, really pulled me in and said, "Hey, can you host this event? Can you, are you available for this?" And I started taking it on. And next thing I knew, he was moving back to Champaign and said, "Hey, do you want to be president?" And I was like, "I feel like I just got here, but sure, I'd be glad to."
Might as
Um,
well.
so yeah, it was something. It was a conscious effort, right? And then I started going and loving it. And again, my kids were older; they're not in sports like they used to be, and my schedule had freed up.
So if you said you have um, kids that are coming up and about to make some decisions to go to college,
Not
what are you
far.
talking to them and some of their friends about um, as far as your University of Illinois experience?
Yeah. So last year, like I mentioned earlier, I took my son and did a campus tour,
Sure.
um, and went to a game. And you probably know this, but Ron Wilson donates some tickets that we sell through the club for scholarship money, and they're incredible seats. And so we just had the time of our lives down there. I will tell you, when I went to University of Illinois, I didn't mention this when I was talking about why I selected it. One of the reasons I selected it is in about, I think it was 1995, an article for like Money Magazine or something came out that ranked Illinois the best buy for public education from a bang for the buck perspective. Um, I'll tell you this: as an out-of-state student, it would be a tough sell to get my kids to go there. I think it's like 60 grand a year out of state is based on the tour we took. So I'm taking them there. We're gonna apply, and we'll see. Maybe I could win one of those scholarships, but after reviewing the scholarships in years past, I don't think so. It's a pretty competitive field coming out of Houston, going to Champaign. But we are touring colleges. My son, he's going to be a senior this upcoming year, and so we've gone to a number of schools, including he really likes A&M. He likes Arkansas. The nice part about some of those other schools is they'll like discount the out of state based on your GPA. I I didn't get any of that from Illinois, but at least that information. I'm not saying they don't, but
Well, it is so competitive now. I
Mhm.
mean, it for a long time, for decades, it's been like it was a bang for the buck. Now it's just the best, and
Yep.
it is very hard to get into. It's super competitive, and the dollars aren't as free flowing like they used to be. But
Yeah, I think when I was there, I'd have to go back and look, and I'm sure I have it somewhere, but I think it was like $8,000 a year, and and I think that might have included the dorm. I'd have to go back and look, but it was a tremendous bargain. And not to say it's not a great education, it absolutely is. Uh, but if my son has a choice of a in-state school or University of Illinois, I think I know where my dollars are going.
we're going to talk in a minute about something that may help a graduating senior from Houston go to attend the
Hmm.
University of Illinois. But um, if you're speaking to somebody that is has gone through Illinois and is graduating this coming May and has an opportunity, their career path's wide open. What are you telling them about the opportunities here in Houston?
Oh, they're top notch. I mean, this is a fourth largest city. It is home to a number of very big companies. And it's not everyone thinks oil and gas. And yes, there's a ton of oil and gas, but there's a lot of other companies headquartered here too. Halliburton's here. Even Academy Sports and Outdoors is headquartered here.
Mhm.
And there's everything in between. I think that the people down here are so friendly and they genuinely want to connect you with people and help you succeed. Um, I think the city's very livable, meaning from a cost of living perspective, compared to some of the other largest cities. The food is out of this world. But yeah, I think the opportunities are abound here.
Um, and I happen to agree with you, but especially with from a food perspective. Um, I this is normally the time where I'll give the guest an opportunity to talk about something that they may be passionate about, that they may want to bring to the forefront. So here's your floor for that.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things I'm passionate about. The
Sure.
first, or not the first. These aren't in order. Um, the Houston Illini Club. I am passionate about the Houston Illini Club. I think there's so many great things going on, including the show. I mean, we've had so many new ideas and new ways to engage with our alumni here in the past. I know COVID slowed us down, right? Absolutely. But even taking that out, I think we're doing so many great things. And it's everything from game watches, which are fun, to the food bank, to a lot of this philanthropy that we're doing, to the business networking events and everything in between. We have Chris's Still Fit Saturdays where we're doing something, to get our athletic prowess going. So there's something for everybody. And the other thing is the more engagement we have, the better it all is. The better ideas we get, the better engagement and ultimately fundraising we get. And we are dues free, and we made a conscious effort to do that, especially during COVID when we weren't getting together. And the dues were not expensive to begin with, but what we decided to do is go dues free and then give some opportunities for donations, and that has just really paid off. We first of all, a lot of people just renew their membership, stay in touch, and we're happy for that. Others give about what our dues would have been, but we have had some extremely generous donations come through that format, and it's enabled us to double our scholarship award in the 3 years or 4 years that I've been a part of this club.
Yeah, why don't
And
you talk a little more about the scholarship?
yeah, so we give one scholarship to a Houston area incoming freshman. And so we get the list from the University of Illinois from applicants, and then they follow up with, yes, they've accepted. And then we reach out to them and ask them if they would consider applying for our scholarship. And we have a scholarship committee. We review all those applications. And it's a mixture of academics as well as, what they've accomplished, maybe outside of the school. And independently, I think there's about 8 of us. So we go through and we review them, and then we basically do a weighted average. And the winner, then we confirm, yes, you're going to Illinois. They don't just get the money, and we actually pay it directly to University of Illinois on their behalf. But the winner will get $4,000 this year. And again, just I think 3 years ago, that number was $2,000. And so we've done a lot of cool things, to fundraise, including, some of this branded merchandise, and we've raffled off some University of Illinois Yetis, and by the way, the university helps us too. They give us, as we do all these things for our membership, they will allow us each year to have up to $1,250 towards our chapter. Now that can't go directly into our fund, but it can allow us to buy a Yeti and then raffle it off. So all the money we get from the raffle goes to our scholarship fund, and we didn't pay for it. We used the 1250 or some portion thereof. So it's just been great. I love that the university implemented that a couple of years ago, because we were already a top tier chapter by the metrics, but it really has pushed us to do even more. And so if they had another level, we'd blow that away too, because we have been such an active chapter. And I'm just very thankful for the board that makes it all happen.
I love that. There was another couple of things that I know we covered in the pre-show that you had, as far as some other things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. One thing is insurance. I'm obviously in insurance. I don't sell insurance, so don't think this is a commercial. But understanding your risks and doing your best to protect against them, and insurance is just one way. Other ways can be, planning your exit route and things like that, right? You can put a ladder in your upstairs windows for fire, but just making sure that you are protecting yourself and your loved ones or your business is something that I'm really passionate about. I give a lot of presentations to risk managers about understanding their risk. And I don't mean just saying, well, I know we could get hit by a fire, but what would that mean in a financial sense? Do I have enough insurance? Do I have the types of coverage? And so that's really important to me. And then the other thing is, and we do this a lot, or we're doing more and more of it through the chapter, is giving back to the community. My children will get the Presidential Service Award this year, and that's side by side with my wife or I. We're very active in that. We want to impress on our children how blessed that they are, and how they can, even if they were, I'll say, less blessed, there's still plenty of things you can do to give back to your community. And we do it through service, and it's been very, very rewarding.
For the parents out there that want to introduce their family and their children to sort of that lifestyle of giving back, like what's your best piece of advice for that?
Yeah. So, my kids are both part of a, what's it called? NCL, National Charity League. There's a boys version and a girls version, and I think they advertise them in the schools as well. And they're both part of that. And then independent of that, we volunteer at the Houston Food Bank at kids meals, which we did through the Houston Illini. And then find your passion. Like, what's your kid's passion? My kids love animals, so they go to a place called Pets Alive, which is a shelter that handles strays and puppies and turned over pets. And they go and they clean cages and they walk dogs, and so I think it's important when getting the children involved to let them do things that they're really interested in, or more interested in than less interested, just to make it less torture on the adults to take them to it. But yeah, there's several organizations that they can partner with.
Well, we're gonna try to tie a bow on this conversation. So, Jason, how do people try to get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, we have a WhatsApp, and I'm in that. I can be emailed at jason.cables, Cables, at Ankura, Ankura.com. Or you can reach me, I think is it president at Houston Illini Club.com. Yeah. Or you can call me 312-502-6654. It's the way to reach me directly.
Well, I threw your email up there on the bottom of the screen for a second.
Oh, perfect.
So I will usually close our conversation with kind of bringing it back to the club, and you kind of teed it up there for me. But the Houston Illini Club, our focus is, and our goals are to bring our Houston Illini family a little bit closer. And Jason, you've done a fantastic job at empowering the right people and putting the right people into the right places with their specific talent set. I want to commend you for that. We do host a ton of events, and the scholarship is incredible, and the goal keeps going up. And I hope we can eventually underwrite somebody's whole tuition, and we'll see that cost keeps going up. But just thank you very much for your service, and thanks for everything you're doing for the club. So as far as some upcoming events, we have a game watch this Thursday with the basketball team being in the Sweet 16. That'll be at 9 o'clock on the 28th at Jake's Sports Bar. You mentioned that before. We have a Houston Illini Club business networking event on April 4th at the Red Lion British Pub. It starts at 5:30. And then one of our very own has authored a book. It's Bombing Hitler's Hometown, but Mike Croissant is doing a author special book signing at the Lone Star Flight Museum out at Ellington Airport on Saturday, April 13th at 11:30. So visit HoustonIlliniClub.com for more information about all those events, other volunteer opportunities, the business networking event, and follow the Houston Illini Club on all of our socials. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us here today. Guys, thanks for tuning into the 3-in-1 show. Can't wait to see you again soon. And ILL.
I, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.